the historical journey of BTS in America, and the unique qualities that have placed Jungkook on a different level of acknowledgement. The awards he has won are not merely decorative tokens, they are markers of cultural impact, industry respect, and mainstream acceptance. That even his fellow BTS members, with their own impressive solo ventures, express awe at his dominance speaks volumes about how extraordinary his trajectory has become. BTS's journey into the American music industry was not one of overnight success. The group faced years of skepticism, cultural bias, and language barriers. Despite global tours and massive fan support, US award shows were initially hesitant to acknowledge their contributions. Slowly, through relentless effort and undeniable demand, BTS broke into the Billboard charts, began winning fan-voted awards, and eventually secured nominations at more prestigious ceremonies. But the recognition was often collective, awards credited to BTS, not to any one individual. This collective success made sense. After all, BTS's power was rooted in its synergy, the combination of 7 members whose roles were complementary. For years, the idea of one member being singled out by the American music industry seemed unlikely, almost contradictory to the ethos of BTS. Yet as the group began to explore individual projects, the dynamics changed. Jungkook's solo career was marked by anticipation and global curiosity. Known as the Golden Magne, he had long been recognized by fans for his versatility, vocals, dancing, stage presence, and even production skills. But what unfolded when he stepped into the American market was unprecedented. His debut singles stormed the Billboard Hot 100, his collaborations with Western artists gained radio play in territories where K-pop had previously struggled, and his music videos garnered streaming numbers competitive with global pop's biggest names. Award shows took notice. Where once BTS as a group had been celebrated for breaking into the American mainstream, now Jungkook was being honored as an individual. His wins carried a symbolic weight. They demonstrated that he was not just an extension of BTS's legacy, but an artist in his own right who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Western solo acts. The inevitable question arises, why Jungkook and not another BTS member? Each member has embarked on solo projects, many with artistic merit and commercial success. RM's intellectual lyricism, Jimin's emotional artistry, Suga's raw production skills, and J-Hope's powerful performances all carved out unique spaces. Yet Jungkook's trajectory in America was different. Several factors contributed. Language and accessibility. Jungkook's willingness to sing in English for his solo releases made his music more immediately accessible to American audiences. While other members leaned into Korean lyrics or hybrid approaches, Jungkook strategically targeted the mainstream market. Global appeal of vocals. His voice carries the kind of pop sensibility that aligns naturally with Western radio standards. Smooth, versatile, and emotive, his vocal tone resonated easily across cultural boundaries. Industry collaborations. By collaborating with established Western artists, Jungkook positioned himself not just as a visiting K-pop star but as a peer within the American industry. Visual and performance power. Award shows thrive on spectacle. Jungkook's stage performances became moments of virality, further cementing his relevance to audiences beyond K-pop's core fanbase. The result was an alignment of market strategy, talent, and timing. The reaction of other BTS members. Perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of Jungkook's solo success in America is the reaction it elicited from his fellow BTS members. Publicly, they've expressed pride, support, and amazement. Privately, as glimpsed through interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, there's also a sense of genuine disbelief. After all, for years, BTS functioned as a unit where no single member overshadowed the group. Watching Jungkook step onto award stages alone, hearing his name announced at American ceremonies where even BTS as a whole once struggled to be acknowledged, is surreal even for them. It's not envy or competition that drives their disbelief. It's the sheer rarity of the achievement. They know firsthand the walls they had to break down as a collective, which makes Jungkook's solo accolades appear almost improbable. In many ways, their reactions mirror those of fans worldwide, awed, proud, and slightly stunned. Winning awards in America carries a different weight compared to other regions. The US remains the largest music market in the world, and its institutions, whether Billboard, MTV, or the Grammys, carry international prestige. Recognition from these platforms signals not just commercial success, but also cultural integration. For Jungkook, these awards mean more than trophies. They represent entry into a canon traditionally dominated by Western artists. While BTS collectively broke down the door, Jungkook has walked through it and claimed a seat at the table. His wins are not symbolic gestures toward inclusivity, but hard-earned acknowledgments of artistry and influence. Beyond strategy, beyond market forces, there is the emotional core of Jungkook's American Award victories. For a young man who debuted as a teenager under the guidance of 6 older members, stepping onto the world's most visible stages alone must be a mixture of pride, pressure, and surreal disbelief. His wins are not only personal milestones but also reflections of the years of effort BTS invested in opening doors. Fans feel this deeply. The image of Jungkook holding an American award, his name etched onto the plaque, resonates as the culmination of a journey that began in small practice rooms in Seoul. Even his bandmates' disbelief is part of the emotional narrative, proof of how unlikely, yet powerful, this moment truly is. Jungkook's solo recognition in America has implications beyond his personal career. It challenges industry assumptions about non-Western artists. It signals to US institutions that success is not confined to English-speaking acts. And it sets a precedent. If one BTS member can dominate solo, the boundaries of global pop have permanently shifted. Moreover, it raises questions about the future of BTS. While group activities remain central, the undeniable success of Jungkook as a solo artist will inevitably influence how the group is perceived, managed, and celebrated in the years to come. Japanese acts such as Utada Hikaru or Korean legends like BoA, Rain, and TVXQ enjoyed considerable global fame, but found little traction in American award landscapes. Even PSY, with his global viral hit Gangnam Style, could not secure recognition from top US ceremonies despite shattering records. These examples reinforce the idea that America's award ecosystem was structurally resistant to non-Western representation. Against this backdrop, BTS emerged as the first act to systematically dismantle the walls. They did not just chart songs, they built a sustained presence, sold out stadiums, and cultivated a fan base that US institutions could no longer ignore. Yet still, much of their recognition remained collective. When Jungkook alone began receiving awards, it was a watershed moment. It proved that individual Asian artists could thrive under the same criteria as Western solo acts. To understand why Jungkook's solo wins matter, one must analyze the nature of American award systems. Billboard Music Awards (BBMAs). These are data-driven, based on streaming, sales, and airplay. For Jungkook to win here means his reach is quantifiable and undeniable, not just fan-driven. MTV Video Music Awards (VMAs). These emphasize cultural impact, virality, and music video artistry. Jungkook's sleek, performance-heavy visuals align perfectly with this format. American Music Awards (AMAs). Largely fan-voted but influential in reflecting mainstream popularity. Jungkook's global fanbase ensures dominance in this category. Grammy Awards, the most prestigious, based on industry peer recognition. Even nominations here represent validation from the most resistant gatekeepers. Each of these institutions has its own bias and criteria. That Jungkook has made inroads across multiple categories means his success is not isolated to one metric. It spans sales, cultural impact, and industry acknowledgement. There are several layered reasons why Jungkook, out of all BTS members, became the focal point for American award bodies. 1. The power of English language singles. When Jungkook released tracks like Seven and Standing Next to You, he deliberately leaned into English lyrics. This was not about abandoning his roots, but about maximizing accessibility. American radio, historically reluctant to embrace non-English tracks, embraced these songs more readily. They fit seamlessly into playlists alongside artists like Justin Bieber, The Weeknd, and Ed Sheeran. Point 2. The familiar yet fresh sound. Jungkook's music carries Western pop influences, R&B grooves, EDM hooks, and pop structures, yet it is delivered with a distinctive vocal style that makes him stand out. For American audiences, this balance of familiarity and uniqueness makes him both accessible and intriguing. Point 3. The everyman superstar persona. Unlike some idols who maintain an untouchable aura, Jungkook projects relatability. His humble demeanor, candid interviews, and visible growth from a teenager to a global icon create an emotional resonance. American media thrives on storytelling, and Jungkook provides a compelling narrative of persistence, humility, and triumph. Point 4. Performance-centric appeal. American award shows are visual spectacles, and Jungkook excels in this arena. His ability to command a stage, through dance precision, live vocals, and charisma, makes him an ideal candidate for televised award moments. Point 5. Fan power that extends beyond K-pop. BTS Army is a global force, but Jungkook's solo fandom has also attracted casual listeners who may not identify as K-pop fans. This crossover appeal broadens his reach and cements his eligibility for mainstream awards. In candid moments, BTS members have shared admiration for Jungkook's wins. RM has spoken about his pride in seeing the youngest member fly on his own. Suga, with his producer's perspective, has highlighted the technical excellence of Jungkook's music. Jimin and V have expressed support tinged with surprise, marveling at how far Jungkook has gone as a soloist. There is a subtle layer of disbelief here, not because they doubt his talent, but because they understand the structural barriers he overcame. For artists who once questioned whether they would ever be recognized outside Korea, watching Jungkook win on American soil feels like witnessing the impossible. This disbelief also underscores an important truth. Jungkook's wins do not diminish BTS's collective achievements, but amplify them. They prove that the group's impact was not a fluke. It created conditions where one of its members could thrive alone in the toughest market in the world. Jungkook's recognition in American awards signals a broader shift in how the US industry perceives K-pop. Once dismissed as a passing trend, K-pop is now acknowledged as a permanent fixture in global music. However, it is Jungkook's individual wins that prove this acknowledgement is not limited to group phenomena. Executives, producers, and media outlets have begun treating him as an artist whose career trajectory mirrors Western soloists rather than as a representative of an exoticized genre. This reframing has massive implications. It means future K-pop idols may find smoother pathways into Western recognition, following the precedent Jungkook has set. For fans in Korea and across Asia, Jungkook's American awards carry symbolic weight. They represent not only his success, but the breaking of cultural hierarchies. In a world where Western validation has historically been seen as the highest form of legitimacy, his wins reaffirm the global relevance of Asian artists. For younger artists in training, his example becomes aspirational. It tells them that solo success in America is no longer an impossible dream. For fans, it creates a sense of collective pride, a belief that their support has reshaped the global music order. Every award Jungkook receives carries a dual weight, pride and pressure. Pride, because it is proof of his artistry being acknowledged on the world's largest stage. Pressure, because expectations grow with each victory. Fans want more wins, media looks for the next milestone, and industry insiders scrutinize whether he can sustain this momentum. The emotional narrative deepens when considering Jungkook himself. Having been known as the Golden Magne, who could do everything, he now faces the challenge of living up to that image at an even higher level. Every step is magnified. Every award is both a triumph and a responsibility. Not everyone in America has welcomed Jungkook's wins without question. Some critics argue that fan power alone drives his recognition, dismissing the artistic merit of his work. Others remain skeptical about the longevity of his solo career, framing him as a product of BTS's machine rather than an independent artist. Yet these criticisms fail to account for the objective data, his streaming dominance, radio airplay, and chart performance, all of which point to genuine mainstream impact. Moreover, his ability to sustain momentum across multiple releases counters the argument of being a one-hit wonder. In fact, the very existence of skepticism highlights how disruptive his presence is. If his wins were insignificant, they would not provoke debate. The fact that they do proves that he has unsettled existing power structures. One of the most pressing questions is how Jungkook's solo recognition will shape BTS's future. Will the group dynamic change when one member achieves more mainstream American acknowledgement than the others? Will management strategies shift to capitalize on his solo momentum? So far, BTS has maintained a strong narrative of unity. Jungkook's wins are celebrated as collective achievements, extensions of the group's legacy. Yet it is inevitable that such milestones will influence perceptions, both internally and externally. Fans and media will continue to compare solo trajectories, and industry insiders will view Jungkook as a particularly valuable asset. This does not spell division, but it does mark evolution. BTS's identity is no longer limited to collective success. It now includes the possibility of individual dominance on the global stage.